Greetings, loyal subjects of the Imperium of Man. I am Librarian Elias of the Adeptus Astartes. I am creating a series of recordings with the intent of educating the general populace of the dangers of the galaxy. All of this information comes from the Lexicanum, provided to me by the Adeptus Mechanicus. I will be reading verbatim from their archives. This recording will cover a specific role within the Necron Empire, the mysterious weavers of their technology, the ones known as Crypteks. Crypteks are Necron technological specialists whose purpose is to study the highly advanced and ancient technology of their race. Their main fields of study include dimensional dissonance, singularity manipulation, atomic transmutation, elemental transmogrification, and countless other reason-defying technologies. They are masters of the scientific and technological, and in many ways, Cryptek's powers mirror those employed by the psykers of other races, such as the Imperium and Eldar. However, they differ in that, instead of using a mutant mind to channel warp energies, the Cryptek employs arcane science to harness the universe's fundamental forces. Crypteks operate in pan-galactic conclaves, many of which specialize in a particular field of technology. Though they have no official rank in the political structure of a dynasty, they wield incredible influence and often serve in the courts of Necron overlords and Necron lords as close confidants. The powers of Crypteks are highly sought after by Necron overlords, who will meet whatever demands are made by the Crypteks in exchange for their services. Crypteks wear essence tomes, which are tiles forged from whatever substance that Cryptek is studying. As the Cryptek advances in his studies and mastery of his field, he adds additional tiles to the chain. Chronomancers have tiles made from time itself, while Voidmancers' essence tomes are constructed from black holes, and Dimensionalists from the wound created between dimensions. Ultimately, the only thing that holds the ambition of a Cryptek in check is another of its kind. Should a retained Cryptek rise too far above his station, a Necron overlord will attempt to replace him by luring a more tractable Cryptek away from his rival. Even this has complications, for while no Cryptek will knowingly replace another of the same conclave, a rival from another conclave will happily do so. Once his services are required, a Cryptek's duties stretch far beyond the tomb world. It is common for an overlord to grant a Cryptek the first pickings of precious resources in exchange for his services on campaign. Such a bargain serves both sides well. A tomb world's resources are limited, and the Cryptek's trade requires that he have a ready supply of raw materials. Crypteks sometimes have bodyguards known as crypto thralls, Necrons that have long, bladed appendages that serve the will of their master. Just as there are different types of Astartes, there are also different kinds of techno-sorcerers within the Necron Empire, such as the Harbingers of Despair, otherwise known as Psychomancers. They are masters of influencing the organic mind and psychological warfare. With their abyssal staves, they can spread madness amongst enemy ranks. They are also capable of causing dread in their enemies and dematerializing and rematerializing their comrades by using a device known as the Veil of Darkness, which operates similarly to teleportation. Then there are the Harbingers of Destruction, or Plasmancers, masters of raw energy who can shoot devastating blasts and pulses of light that illuminate the entire battlefield from their eldritch lances in battle. Their gaze of flickering witchfire, also known as the Gaze of Flame, causes the eye sockets of the user's death mask to blaze bright white, freezing all who look at it. It causes even the bravest attacker to falter and lose courage. Then the Harbingers of Eternity, otherwise known as Chronomancers, masters of time and knowledge of the future, flows through their every act. They can rarely be trusted, as they always have an idea of how any event will unfold. They wield Aeon staves with sapphire heads, capable of trapping an enemy in a bubble of slow time. A Chronometron, capable of changing time, and the ability to crystallize time around themselves in a way that blocks their enemies' blows. A subsect of chronomancy is known as astromancy, whose disciples, also known as astroturges or stellasayers, are able to use the stars to divine the future. Notable astromancers include Orikan the Diviner, the Harbingers of Transmogrification, or geomancers, also known as alchemists or metallurgists. They practice an art once known as alchemy, which allows them to specialize in the transmutation of matter from one form to another, and to animate the inanimate. They use the Harp of Dissonance, a weapon that can change adamantium to brittle glass with a single booming bass note. The Seismic Crucible to induce seismic activity in rock, metal, and air, and the Tremor Stave that causes quakes that knock enemies away. Then there's the Harbinger of the Storm, or Ethermancers. These Crypteks are capable of manipulating the weather against their foes. Their voltaic staff shoots lightning, and their ether crystal summons pressure waves and bolts of lightning to buffet their enemies. They are also capable of calling upon emerald lightning fields to protect their allies. Observationers. They specialize in astronomical interpretations, and their skulls contain bristling manes of observational orbs and astrolabes. Technomancers that possess the power to augment and swiftly repair Necron units and canoptic constructs upon the battlefield. Voidmancers that specialize in the void of space and black holes. Dimensionalists, Crypteks that master alternate dimensions and dimensional gateways. Crypteks also use technology unique to themselves, with each subtype wielding differing equipment. Abyssal staves are used by psychomancers that causes those under its effects to surrender to an impenetrable madness. Aeon staves used by chronomancers. These staves contain a massive chrono charge that, when unleashed, can trap a foe in a bubble of slow time. Art of Vindicators, used by psychomancers. This device is cruel in that it plucks the target's most primitive fears from their mind and projects them into a bewildering mental assault. Bombarded with horrible visions, foes are likely to harm themselves in an effort to escape. Canoptic cloaks, used by technomancers. This device allows the user to move around the battlefield quickly to where they are needed most. Canoptic control nodes are used by technomancers that allows them to augment technology from afar. Cortical subjugator scarabs. These devices are used by paranoid and self-obsessed Crypteks that causes those that they are attached to become overwhelmed with a desire to storm into battle and protect their master. Counter-temporal nanomines used by chronomancers. They release a swarm of nanoscarabs that sweep out and lace the ground before them with microscopic temporal charges. Foes advancing into the invisible minefield find reality shattering and glitching around them. The Eldritch Lance, used by Necron Plasmancers. These lances emit a blast of furious plasma, whose passage makes even air scream in agony. Then there are entropic lances used by Cryptek chronomancers. They are capable of speeding up time for their foe. Ether crystals used by ethermancers. These create crushing pressure waves and bolts of lightning that buffet the Cryptek's enemies. The Nightmare Shroud, used by Cryptek psychomancers. It summons forth the worst fears of the attacking enemies and thrusts them into their minds. The Photonic Transsubjugator. The device uses temporary heart-like hologram simulations of its user to bewilder attackers and confound assassins. And Voltaic Staffs, used by ethermancers. The Voltaic Staff is capable of commanding and manipulating lightning. There are several notable Crypteks, many of which will have their own separate recording. These include Illuminor Xeras, the architect of the biotransference, Orikan the Diviner, who was discussed in the previous recording, Navgran the Eternal, or the High Transmuter of the Samtek Dynasty, Jizian of the Nihilek Dynasty, and Ethermancer, who works on the tomb world of Cardrim. Kamartep the Crooked is a master of eldritch devices and has tiny scarabs crawling across his carapace. Osiskor, a harbinger of transmogrification. Tohulk, also known as Tohulk the Blinded, a famed Necron Cryptek known to be a master artificer of war machines. Ozcan, the Codifier, a Cryptek of the Subbakar dynasty and a harbinger of transmogrification. Rakos, a chronomancer of the Subbakar dynasty. Hari Apt, the Conflagrator, creator of the Gauntlet of the Conflagrator, that uses interdimensional energy exchanges to open a microscopic conduit into the heart of a raging star that results in a superheated plasmic flame erupting from the hole. Senate, a Cryptek that is the chief curator of trees in the Infinite Museum world of Solemnes. Vishani, of the Amunos dynasty, considered to be the greatest occult encoder of her age during the War in Heaven. Omizar Vok is a Stellar chronomancer, and Amhet, the Psychomancer, also known as the Warlock of Carnotite, that took over the planet for his own experiments. This concludes the information regarding Crypteks. More in-depth information regarding them will be recorded at a later date. This is Librarian Elias, signing